In the introduction of the Count of Monte Cristo, it's 1815, and Edmond Dantès is a dashing young first mate on the cargo ship Pharaon, whose owner, Monsieur Morel, plans to appoint Dantès captain. Dantès has 3 months ashore to spend time with his aged father and marry his fiancée, Mercedes. But 3 men hate him for different reasons and meet to conspire against him: Danglars, Fernand Mondego, and Caderousse. Dantès is arrested and taken away to prison at his own betrothal celebration. The commissioner of police received an anonymous letter accusing Dantès of being involved in a Bonapartist plot to overthrow the government. Monsieur de Villefort, the crown prosecutor's deputy, learns the letter poses a problem for him because it's addressed to his own father. Villefort's ambition to rise in the government will be jeopardized if it becomes known that he has a traitor in the family. In the rising action, Villefort arranges for Dantès to be sent to Château d'If, a prison where political prisoners are sent to disappear. While there, Dantès befriends Abbé Faria, a political prisoner. The abbé knows of a secret treasure, and he educates Dantès and helps him figure out who was behind the letter that led to his arrest. When the abbé dies, Dantès escapes Château d'If in his body bag. He ends up with smugglers and works with them before finding the abbé's treasure on the island of Monte Cristo. Once he has the treasure, Dantès begins his plan of vengeance. He learns what became of the men who betrayed him. Fernand rose to general in the army and has become a Count of Motifs. Villefort is now a deputy minister in the government. And Danglars is now Baron Danglars, a millionaire banker. Morcerf betrayed his former patron, Ali Pasha, whose daughter Haydée Dantès saved from slavery Morcerf had sold her into after her mother and father died. Dantès reinvents himself as the fabulously wealthy and eccentric Count of Monte Cristo. He owns the island of Monte Cristo, where he's created an exotic hidden home with staff of loyal, trusted attendants, most of whom have checkered pasts. The Count saves Albert de Morcerf, son of Mercedes and Fernand Mondego, from bandits. Caderousse is murdered by an accomplice thief. A journalist publishes a story revealing Morcerf's treachery, and Haydée testifies against Morcerf at a government tribunal. Albert and Mercedes flee, and the disgraced Fernand Mondego commits suicide. The Count teaches Madame de Villefort how to use poison and watches as she kills each member of the household and poisons her own daughter. These events, plus the revelation that Villefort tried to bury alive his illegitimate child years before, drive Villefort insane. In the climax of the novel, Villefort shows his son Edward's body to Dantès, who realizes his revenge has gone too far. In the following action, Dantès talks with Mercedes, and both move on. Edmond also visits Château d'If and reflects on his time there. When his vengeance is complete, he helps Maximilian and Valentine start a new life, leaving them a fortune. In the resolution, he starts a new life of his own, sailing off with Haydée. The Count of Monte Cristo is packed with characters, but let's focus on the main ones. Edmond Dantès is the protagonist, the first mate of the cargo ship Pharaon. He's imprisoned for 14 years on false charges. He vows to seek revenge on those who betrayed him. Abbé Faria helps him acquire a broad education and tells him where a vast treasure is buried. He escapes from prison, finds the treasure, and spends 10 years carrying out a complicated plan of vengeance, often using aliases, most notably the Count of Monte Cristo. He thinks of himself as an agent of God, punishing wrongdoers. Abbé Faria, an older political prisoner in Château d'If, is thought to be mad because he insists he has a huge treasure. He shares his wisdom and vast knowledge of every subject with Dantès, and works on an escape plan with him, as well as sharing with him the location of his treasure. Danglars, the supercargo, or officer in charge of accounts on the Pharaon, is resentful that Dantès is to be promoted from first mate to captain, so he creates the plot to implicate Dantès as a traitor to the government. Cold, pretentious, and controlling, Danglars takes a job with a Spanish bank and makes millions gambling on the stock exchange. Monsieur de Villefort is the proud, ambitious crown prosecutor who will do just about anything to further his political career, including sending Dantès to prison to hide information that could harm Villefort's father and his own career. He cares more about his work than his family. His second wife actually poisons several members of his family. And after the illegitimate son he'd thought to be dead at birth surfaces in his courtroom as a thief and murderer, he goes insane. Fernand Mondego is a fisherman who's in love with his cousin Mercedes, even though she's engaged to Edmond Dantès. Fernand delivers the anonymous letter responsible for Dantès' arrest. He joins the army and marries Mercedes, enriching himself through treachery and betrayal. Monte Cristo punishes him by revealing that he betrayed and killed a man he was tasked by the government to protect, so he commits suicide. Gaspard Caderousse is a former neighbor of Dantès. He's imprisoned for the murder of a jeweler and his wife. In prison, he meets Benedetto, who he blackmails and is then killed by after a botched robbery of Monte Cristo's house. Mercedes is a poor, beautiful Catalan engaged to Edmond Dantès when he's arrested and disappears. Believing Dantès is dead, she marries Fernand Mondego. Dignified, honest, and religious, she never forgets Dantès. Her son Albert is her only source of happiness. Maximilian is the son of Monsieur Morel. Monte Cristo develops a friendship with him. Maximilian falls in love with Valentine de Villefort, and after she's poisoned by her stepmother, Monte Cristo ends up protecting her. There are two central symbols in the sprawling adventure epic, The Count of Monte Cristo: elixir and the red silk purse. Dantès' elixir, or potion, serves as a representation of God's strength, both in constructive and destructive ways. The elixir has the power to both give and destroy life, conveying godlike power to Dantès, who believes he is acting as an agent of God. However, the elixir fails Dantès when he is unable to use it to bring a boy Edward back to life. The limits of the elixir prove to be Dantès' limits as well. Only God has the power to give and take life, just as only God, and not Dantès, has the power to meter out justice. Through the power of the red silk purse, good works are rewarded. Monsieur Morel uses the purse in his attempt to save Dantès' father's life. In return, Dantès employs the purse to save Morel's own life. The manifestation of the red silk purse in both scenes signals to Morel the connection between the two events. Morel's daughter displays the purse to reiterate its power, crossing the span of many years to act as a symbol that saves lives. Betrayal and vengeance, retribution, and power. These themes create the epic interweaving novel of revenge that is The Count of Monte Cristo. Betrayals, or acts of disloyalty, aren't limited to the life-shattering conspiracy against Edmond Dantès. Caderousse and his wife betray a jeweler, and then Caderousse betrays his wife. Benedetto and Caderousse betray each other. Fernand betrays Ali Pasha, a man he's entrusted to protect. Danglars betrays his clients, gambling on the market with their money. Villefort betrays his own daughter when he tries to force her into a marriage for his own gain. Even good Mercedes betrays Edmond by marrying Fernand, although that act is the most forgivable since she thinks Dantès is dead. The point is, practically everyone gets betrayed. Vengeance, punishment inflicted on a person by one who has been harmed by that person, suggests extremism and violence, and Dantès feels that vengeance is his only recourse. He justifies his actions by convincing himself he's carrying out the will of God or divine providence. Retribution, or punishment, is often doled out indiscriminately in The Count of Monte Cristo. Murder is typically the first choice of punishment. Villefort says he believes the death penalty is an appropriate punishment for political crimes. Benedetto murders Caderousse for blackmail. Bertuccio tries to kill Villefort for not helping his brother. And Monte Cristo tailors his retribution to fit the crimes committed against him. Fernand, who steals Mercedes from him, loses the love and respect of his family. Villefort, who prides himself on his reputation as an upholder of justice, is revealed as an adulterer and manipulator of justice. Greedy Danglars loses his fortune. Caderousse, an apathetic coward, almost acquires a huge diamond, but is done in by his own greed. The problem with retribution is that the person doling it out can't predict all the consequences, as Monte Cristo learns when Madame de Villefort poisons innocent little Edward. Power is the name of Monte Cristo's game. After all, Abbe Faria's treasure makes Monte Cristo's vengeance possible because it gives him the power to travel wherever he needs to be and meet those in power who can be useful to his plans. His wealth helps him to manipulate people and events. But knowledge also confers power, and the knowledge Monte Cristo has acquired from Abbe Faria allows him to move throughout the Parisian aristocratic circle into which his enemies have risen, moving people like pieces into play in a game of revenge. He spends years gaining knowledge about the men who conspired against him, and he uses that knowledge to carry out his vengeance. His ingenuity allows him to apply his knowledge and to quickly adapt his plans as circumstances demand. Ambition, transformation, identity, and the sea are central motifs in the Count of Monte Cristo. Ambition is a natural desire to improve one's life. For Dantès, the ambition to become captain of the Pharaon motivates him to take on the position's duties when its captain dies. For Vifon, the ambition to achieve power and status motivates him to imprison an innocent man. Ambition can drive characters to do good, but it can also lead them to commit a variety of misdeeds, including acts of betrayal, theft, blackmail, and murder. Naive, loving, uneducated Edmond Dantès becomes transformed after his time in prison into the sophisticated, vengeful, highly educated Count of Monte Cristo. Transformation is a motif key to his character, and after the tragic death of Edward, he transforms himself again. Identity is a motif that sees the names and personas of many characters change throughout the novel. Dantès also assumes various disguises, changing his name to fit the role he is playing at the time. This shifting shows his lack of a true identity. He is an instrument of revenge. Also, Vifon rejects his father's name to avoid the association with his father's political leanings, and Motifs has purchased his name. The sea is an ever-present entity in the life of Edmond Dantès. As the young first mate on a merchant ship, he relies on the sea for his livelihood. The experience of emergence from the sea after his daring escape from Chateau d'If serves as a kind of baptism into his new life. His home on Monte Cristo is surrounded by the sea. A skilled navigator, being on the sea has a restorative effect for the Count.